What's up, guys? Angron's calmest son here, and today I feel like I do something different and we could do something cool and funny. We're gonna do a whiteboard lecture about some things that have been on my mind recently, i.e. more about Slanesh for some reason. And I might misspell Slanesh, that's just gonna be how it's gonna be, but I figured we would do something about meme lore versus real lore. So before we even get into this, you might be thinking, what qualifies you, Connor? What qualifies a world eater to talk upon the sons of Fulgrim? Well, I'll have you know, I've read Fulgrim. I have read The Faultless Blade of Lucius and his short stories. I've also read the Fabius Bile trilogy. It is safe to say I have a rudimentary understanding of Slanesh as a force of nature in the setting. You know, I'm something of an expert when it comes to chaos, if you couldn't tell by the banner of the World Eater in my channel. But besides that, I just figured this would be fun because, you know, I always like to tell people to read and just go explore and actually read the excerpts they're getting from other YouTubers or Reddit. So we're going to start with some nitpicky stuff, though. So Slanesh and the followers are all like Hellraiser aesthetic. That is just something I felt really nitpicky about, and I don't really write that good, guys. So just, you know, typical World Eater nonsense. I didn't really learn how to read except if it's in grunts and screams. That's not always the case. Like most chaos legions and regiments and all that nonsense, they come in all shapes and sizes. And Fabius Bile's trilogy was really good in this. In the third book, there's a knight pilot who is, you know, obviously fallen to Slanesh, and this dude is not really the Hellraiser aesthetic. I know that's a little small portion. This is really nitpicky because a lot of them are that real like bondage and their faces are distorted and all split up and all that nonsense. But I just, you know, they come in all shapes and sizes, guys. That's just me being nitpicky, but, you know, it's more, I just wanted to get that out of the way. So with that being said, I think I would also want to cover Slanesh is all about sex and drugs. That is kind of just some grimdank manifestation, really, if you would rather. The whole collective consciousness of grimdank, more like an orcish psychic field, has just conjured up that Slanesh is really only focused on like the sexual depravity, and then all the followers of Slanesh are like these sort of sex, you know, dominated characters who all have like these weird undertones of like BDSM and S&M. And that is true for some characters, that's definitely applicable, but Slanesh is the god of excess, and sex is probably the easiest way to portray the excess part, with the new experiences and reaching for more and more. But there's other ways of portraying that, and I think it sort of gets lost in translation when you're only getting the chaos, you know, bits and pieces of lore from other YouTubers or Reddit, you know. Again, there's a lot of different ways that you could be seeing it, but again, I'm going to use the same example from the third book. I think it was Manflayer. I think it was the third book in the Fabius Bile trilogy, and there's a guy named Narvo Quinn who fought with Fabius during the heresy and all that nonsense. He's a normal dude, by the way, and his whole thing into the sort of excess would be to serve the Dark Lord in excess. That is his thing. Or the Knight pilot, who his excess and his thing that helped him fall to Slanesh was fighting a new battle each time. It wasn't really all about the drugs and the sex that would be portrayed in memes, but each individual character has a set reason to fall to excess, and some of it does have sexual undertones with the new experience and all that, which is totally fine because it does fall into the category of excess. But characters like Lucius or even Fabius, even though Fabius doesn't worship chaos, he still plays an active role in being excessive with his new men and the creations and the abominations that he makes, either for himself or for Abaddon or anybody else in between. Lucius with his need to be the best swordsman, Eidolon with his need to be the best and be the leader of the Legion with the Phoenix Enclaves, trying to bring back the Emperor's children to have some form of unity. These are things that are understandable within the excess and kind of fall out of the meme lore. So I think that was really important to have. Real lore, I would probably put excess, again, comes in all shapes and sizes. It's kind of important to know that because people kind of get that confused with, let's say, Nurgle, where Nurgle would necessarily be, someone would characterize Nurgle on online as, the least evil of the Chaos Gods, which is not true. They're all very evil and destructive entities. But people get this because Nurgle's depicted as this jovial old man figure, but really, realistically, he is an abusive character, much like how an abusive family member would claim to love another family member. It is, just constant berating them and showing them despair until eventually they're mentally broken, and it's like Stockholm Syndrome. That would be the most realistic depiction and how I would explain it to someone who would be sort of interested in the Death Guard, like in a serious way. Not like if I was to talk to my friends and be like, oh yeah, they're like, it's all body horror stuff and they're super like tanky and shit and it's cool. Yeah, that would get me interested. But, the more you diverse and, you would get into the hobby, the more you sort of either unconsciously or consciously take it more seriously when you start reading. And it's important that you kind of get a real grasp of what it is you're interested in and finding out why it interests you. So if you were to get into Slesh and your whole intro to it was sex and drugs, it would kind of be, you would put you off almost. You'd be like, well, this isn't really what I had pictured, because some of it is really grim and dark. How, these Sleshi characters, cultists, whoever, lose everything and really don't even realize that they're so mentally broken. And that couldn't really be what you signed up for. Whereas if you were into like Khorne and the World Eaters, shout out Angron and Karn, it would be weird. It wouldn't be that, it wouldn't be that weird because it's very, very surface level. And Mr. Bones actually made a video about why Khorne is lame. I would recommend you go watch it. I kind of disagree, but he was, it's about not having a lot of complex characters who are under Khorne, which is a fair thing to say because Khorne's whole thing is, once you kind of lose your personality and become a machine basically built for bloodshed. And these things are sort of also applicable to Slesh. They could also be very one-dimensional depending on the character and how they're portrayed. So now that we got that little spiel out of the way, let's try and think what else I would really classify as meme lore when it comes to Slesh. When I think about it, and this is obviously, I'm going through what I can remember from reading things like online. So, Fulgrim is inactive. This is kind of lobbed in with maybe Logar being inactive and Corvus stalking him in his tower and Logar's too afraid to leave. While it is really funny to like headcanon that and joke around about it and be like, Bird Boy is scaring local priest, LOL. That's not actually how this shit's going on, y'all. That is just not true. And, there are reports, and obviously I think this can probably be found in codexes or something. I don't own any of the codexes. I kind of I find other ways to read them, if you get what I'm saying. So Fulgrim is indeed sort of active within the setting, not in a major way as of right now to my knowledge. I may be talking out of my ass right now. But Fulgrim is indeed active, just like Logar is now reported to be very active, which I'm sure GW sort of what I would assume is setting up like a Avengers, Infinity War type deal, some cape shit stuff where some of the loyalist Primarchs, every time one comes back, then a traitor one gets a showcase, which I think is going to be the case with Fulgrim, actually, in the Emperor's Children. They're going to get some cool story stuff, hopefully. So, yes, Fulgrim is active, and even, it's funny enough, Fulgrim is active in, again, the third book of, you really should read it if I'm mentioning it this much, the third book in the Fabi Spiral Trilogy. It was either Clone Lord or Manflayer. I might be mixing the two of them up, or Primogenitor. I'm just naming all of them at this rate. But Fullgrown talks to Fabius and mentions a bunch of a battle or two where he did lead the whole Emperor's Children, but this was in the past. But he is making, subtle moves. Slaanesh is communing with their champion. He's not inactive. Most of the Chaos, the Demon Primarchs are active in one way or another. They just aren't being showcased in this setting, as of right now anyway. So what else would I really do for meme lore? Because this is fun and I like to do this. So and a lot of people do say some stuff that is other times really explainable as like you're being new and you don't really read, or you've read very little books on what you're talking about, and it's fair to just kind of talk out of your ass because you're excited and you conjure up this mental image in your head of the story and how it went down because it's cool, but then you actually read it and then you're like, oh damn, I have been saying some nonsense, and it happens. But then other times people are confronted with this stuff and then they'll still actively choose to ignore it, which is your choice, dude. I mean, I think you're kind of cutting yourself out of a lot of other stuff you'd be enjoying by kind of having your own narrative about it when there's already something established there. So let's see. This will be another sort of weird nitpicky one. Not nitpicky, but like something I've seen once and it kind of stuck with me because it felt sort of weird. But this is more a generalized one. Chaos is fast acting. So anyone who's like, and this is the most general one, I'm sorry, this really isn't focused on Slaanesh, but I figured I'd write it down anyway. I saw somebody say it, and I don't know if it was on the regular 40k lore one or like Grimdank or whatever, but someone said like Chaos immediately turns you into like Spawn or something like that. That's not true. Like most things in Warhammer, it varies. So, someone can be Spawn, someone can't be Spawn, It's kind of, it is always varied. Like Luther was obviously influenced by Chaos, but then Chaos sort of retreated their influence from him, which is sort of rare because once you're corrupted. But Chaos doesn't have to play by rules, hence the name Chaos. You can they play by their own rules as well, i.e. Lucius. Also, oh my God. One thing that really, it's like irrationally pisses me off to no end is when like people say that like Lucius has like plot armor and that's like something beneficial to him. Plot armor does not necessarily have to be beneficial at all. Plot armor can actually be a huge fucking deterrent to the character themselves. Cato, Sicarius, the Ultramarine that everyone likes to meme on, is a really good example of this. I've not read any Ultramarine stuff. I am literally telling you that I'm doing the exact opposite of what I preach against. I have read excerpts and all this stuff about how he has like PTSD because, all this stuff, because they're not going to kill him because he's a really popular character. And that applies to Lucius, by the way. Lucius has plot armor. He does, but that's not a good thing. This plot armor, for those who are unaware, Lucius gets killed and he has this ability granted to him by Slaanesh, because he's the chosen mortal champion, to return. And you're thinking, how is that not plot armor, bro? He can come back each time he's died. Yes, each time he comes back, by the way, the person that killed him, if they took any satisfaction in it, are ingrained into his armor and are constantly tormenting him with either their cries of anguish or the fact that they're kind of mocking him for the fact that he is not the greatest swordsman because he's died so many times. So plot armor is, there, but not good. And it's not like a weird like thing that somehow makes him a shitty character. Sometimes it does, but the goal is also for him to be a shitty character. It's come on. That's who he is, man. Plot armor is there, not good. It hurts him. He is not granted, this with no consequences like anyone else is when it comes to Chaos. Like, this dude is always constantly lamenting and is angry and anxious because of this. When he steps on that landmine and everyone kind of shits on him for it, it's funny. It absolutely is hysterical that this 10,000-year-old warrior gets demolished by a landmine, and then he's pissed that the dude took satisfaction in his work. That dude's there. That dude is mocking him. That dude is crying out in anguish. It's not fun for anybody. Or when he turns into that Necron that kills him, and I think that was bullshit. I'm gonna be real with you. I think that was a load of shit. I don't really get it. But then you're not supposed to get it because Slesh doesn't have to play by their own set rules. Like when Sharokin kills him, comes back anyway. Oh, how can he do that? How can he have Slesh has to abide by Slesh does not have to do shit, bro. That's a chaos god. Slesh can turn me into a friggin' like a pickle even. I have to have a very high IQ to understand that joke. And it wouldn't matter because if I was protected by the Emperor, Slesh can still like go pickle Connor now. You get what I'm saying? Like it does not really translate that well. So that was, I thought we'll probably end it on that. But that very much pisses me off that people, plot armor sometimes when it's done poorly does suck and it makes a character boring. But when it comes to people or like characters like Lucius or really any of the Primarchs or any of that, it keeps the story alive. And sometimes I understand it's hard for authors to find a really good balance of being grim and dark and subverting expectations. But it's also understandable that when a character is expected to come back each and every time, it does get boring. But for Lucius, that's absolutely not the fucking point. Lucius is cursed. He's not blessed. He may think he's blessed, but he is cursed. And I think most characters sort of kind of can infer that. But you as a reader, if you're only going off of lore from friggin', Warhammer, Connor 40K on Reddit, that's not actually my user. You're coming in with this expectation and you're maybe preemptively hating a character before actually understanding the whole context behind the character's ability and or curse or blessing, however you want to view it. So don't cheat yourself. Please don't. So anyway, that was the little lecture there. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this. I know this was really different from what I usually do, but we're gonna get an orc video within the next 2 weeks, I think. I'm still finishing up Farsight. I just have a lot going on right now. So without further ado, guys, if you did enjoy this, thank you. This was fun to do. And thank you for watching, and I am out of here.